Now we have covered create, read and update. The fourth operation which is very important is the delete in MongoDB, delete operation in MongoDB. Okay, so now let's cover the delete operation in MongoDB. So delete operation again contains two things, that is delete one and delete many. Okay, so what is delete one? It's similar to update one, or if I talk about insert one, we were inserting one object. If I talk about insert many, we were actually inserting many objects, right? So if I want to delete one specific object, how can I do that? So I would simply write db dot product. Suppose inside this products collection, I want to delete all the objects whose name is xyz. That means I'm talking about this specific object and I'm talking about this specific object. That means these two objects. I want to delete both of these. How can I do this? I can simply say db.products.deleteMany, delete many. And guys, inside this I would just say I want to delete those whose name is xyz. Okay, although you can provide more parameters also. I would also look for the price must be for example 321. Okay, I would say delete those whose name is xyz and price is 321. Okay, for that case you have to do this, but right now I'm just looking for name, so I would just say delete all those objects whose name is xyz. So if I hit enter, you can see we have deleted, and you can see delete count is 2. That means 2 objects have been deleted, and that's what we were expecting. So you can actually see that yeah, those 2 extra objects which we were having at the end were deleted. Okay, so that's how you can perform the delete many operation. Right now, instead of delete many, we have one more method, that is delete one. Okay, delete one is really helpful, and delete one is if you want to delete the topmost one. Okay, that means topmost one. So if you have hundreds of xyz names, I would delete the topmost one. That's delete one, similar to update one, right? So I would just say delete all objects whose delete the first object whose name is p3. Okay, suppose you have multiple p3 objects, I would delete the first one. Okay, so now I would just hit enter and it would just delete that. So I would show you, and p3 is deleted. Okay, and if there were other p3s, they would still be there. Okay, the top p3 would be deleted, right? So this is the delete one method. But usually what we do is you would be deleting a specific unique element by simply verifying it with its id, so I would just copy the id and I would just again write the same thing, but this time I'm just going to say I want to find that id. That means find that id which I want to delete, and here I would just paste that object id. That means I would just find that id and delete that, so it would be just deleting it, and I would just show you find, and you can see that now p4 is also gone. Okay, so that's how you can as easily perform the delete one operation. So right now guys, we perform 3 operations, that is delete operation, delete one, delete many, and we also before learned about the unset operation. So unset operation is used to delete any specific field, right? So that also comes in the delete operation, but still yeah, we learned in the update part, so you can watch that part again of this video. So we learned about delete one and delete many, and although you would be using your unique id for delete many. Okay, for delete one, right? For delete one or delete many, it would be always targeting only one object, obviously, because this is unique. So even if you use delete many instead, it would be targeting only one object. Okay, so doesn't matter if you want to delete only one object with its unique id, either use delete one or delete many, never matter. Same for update one, update many, never matters, right? So now we have covered all the 4 operations, that is create, read, update, delete. These were the 4 all important methods which we wanted to know. Now guys, we are going to talk about MongoDB Atlas and MongoDB Compass. So what are these exactly? So let me just first of all show you the official website of it. So I'll just minimize this, or I'll just close this terminal now, and what I'll do is I'll simply go to the official website of MongoDB, right? So I would simply take you there. So you have to simply search for MongoDB Atlas. Just search for it. Okay, just search for it, and you would get the first website. Just go here, and here guys, I have to just look for my email account. Okay, so I would suggest that first of all it would take some time, a few seconds to load this website, because it's like website officially it takes some time. Okay, it takes some time, so let's wait for the website to be loaded. Right, so here we have the sign in part, and I would just click on sign in, And now if I come here, and inside this you can see we have Google account. So I would always recommend, when you are trying to use Atlas, use your Google accounts. Okay, so right now you might be confused what exactly is Atlas, so I'll explain that. But first of all, let's log in, then we'll continue. Okay, so now you can guys exactly see that yeah, we are logged into some Google account, and you might not see some interface like this, but you would simply see something like new project. Okay, so new project. So let me first of all explain what is MongoDB Atlas. So MongoDB Atlas actually acts as your cloud database. So previously what we were doing is we were writing our create, read, update, delete operation in MongoDB shell, right? So they actually helped us to write the code, and what is exactly the purpose? They were actually allowing us to save data to our database. Where was your database? So your database was actually in your local computer, right? By default it's on in your local computer. I told you we have a URL like 127.0, right? That means it was in your local computer. Now when you are building a real life project, do you think that your database must be in your local computer and everyone must use it? No, obviously not. It must be hosted somewhere so that it's running 24/7. So you need a service, you need a platform where you can have your database, right? So we have different services where you can host your MongoDB database which you have created locally. That means you would be buying a virtual machine into Hostinger or different platforms, and there you would be running your MongoDB database. You can also run it on AWS also, Amazon Web Services also. But MongoDB itself provides us Atlas. Here you can have your database and directly can perform operations on your database by simply connecting it to your backend or somewhere else by just getting a URL from MongoDB Atlas. That means you would be storing your database into a cloud platform named as Atlas, MongoDB Atlas. So this is created by MongoDB, owners of MongoDB, and it supports well for MongoDB. Okay, so here you can just name your project, whatever project you name. So I'll just say Mongo TEST. Okay, so I'll just name it something like this. So I would click on next, and then you can see that yeah, you can add your friends also who can also access this database. But I would just skip it and create project. And once you create this, you can easily see that a new project Mongo test has been created. Now inside this project guys, we need to first of all create our database. Okay, so inside a single project you can create multiples. Okay, you can create multiples, but right now you would go to database, and here we would get an option of build a database. So if I click on build a database, you would see that we are getting some options. So what is this? It's asking for money, right? So why is it asking for money? Because MongoDB is a free service up to 512 MB. That means you can store data up to 512 MB. It's a free service. So I would just go for this. It would give us 512 MB of storage. But if you have future requirements, that if you are building a real life project and if you have large amount of data storage, so you would be using, obviously you have to pay for it, obviously. Okay, so nothing is free. But yeah, for just learning purpose, for development purpose, for normal storage purpose, and almost it would do every task. Okay, so this free one is not having any limitation. It would do all of the jobs, all of the features of MongoDB, but just that you have less storage. Okay, so for learning purpose you can go with this is totally fine, right? And then you can go for AWS or whatever service you like. So I would go for AWS because in future you will be using AWS a lot, and personally I've used AWS a lot in Node.js hosting and front-end hosting also, so it's very convenient for me. Although you can go for Google Cloud or Azure, I'm not sure about those, but yeah, I have used AWS a lot. Okay, so now inside region you can go for the nearest region. It's always recommended go for the nearest region so that fastest data retrieval is available, right? So now after that you can see that it's asking for cluster, so you can just assume that cluster is again kind of a folder. Here your database would be there. Okay, so cluster would be here, so you can just name it something like whatever name you want to name. Okay, you can name it something, anything like that. And now if I just click on create, so my cluster 0 would be created. Now guys, here I have to just pick for some username and password. What's the purpose of this? So I would just explain that, but right now just create this username and password. So @j123, and here also I'm just going to create @j123. just write this, so username and password. Okay, so I'm just keeping it same because I've almost forgot password a lot of times and I lost my databases very easily. So yeah, If you want to remember passwords, you can easily write the username and password like this. And I always make complex username and password. Just for educational purpose, I'm keeping it same. If you are keeping a complex password, just keep it safe somewhere so that you later on know. Although you can change the password, if you forget that, you can easily change the password also. If you have this Google account, you can change the password also. Okay, so I'll simply click on create user. Now everything is fine. Okay, everything is fine. Now you can see I would simply click on add my current IP address, so you can see that automatically an IP address would be here. This is my current IP address. Okay, later on it might change, so you have to look for it continuously, because in future once you restart your computer, sometimes the IP address also changes. I'll explain that in the Node.js part, but right now let's assume that this is the IP address and everything is fine. So if I finish and close, go to overview, and you can see that everything is fine. So you can see everything is fine, right? So now guys, I'll explain you one important thing. Let me first of all remove the network access from here. I will just delete this. Okay, I'm saying that this specific laptop is not allowed to access this database locally. Okay, I'll explain that. Right now I've just removed this. Right now if I go back to database, and here guys, now I'll be using some things. Okay, so you can see we are deploying your changes. Okay, now everything is fine. I would simply click on connect. First of all, let me just show you collection. So if I go on browse collections, and here you would see that we don't have anything, but you can load some data, whatever you want. So if I say load a sample data set, you can actually load your JSON file or whatever you want, or I can add my own data. Okay, so I'll just say my database name, whatever database name. So I'll just say, for example, I would just name it as e-commerce. Okay, I'll just name it something like this, or whatever you want, but I'll just name it something like this. And then collection name, so I'll just say my collection name would be, okay, I'll just say test db, that would be better. So test db, and collection name is test col. And then here I would just say that we have, everything is fine, so create. Okay, so you can see that a collection and a database has been created. Now I hope everyone has watched my previous videos. They will understand this is my database test db, and this is the collection test col. Okay, test col. Okay, so here what you have to do is, here right now it's empty. What you can do is you can simply click on insert document, and I would have two options. Either you can write it in JSON format, or you can write it in normal format. Okay, so you can simply click on plus, and here I would just say name, and I would just give it value as Harshal Jain. Automatically the type would be added. Similarly, if I click on next, and I would just say age, and I want the age to be 10, I would just change this to some integer, so 32. So you can see that's how it actually is. Okay, so in 32 is smaller version of integer, that means smaller values would be stored in 32. If you have a very big value, you can store it in 64, right? So if I click on insert, can see that it's inserted, and now you can see one user has been added here. Okay, so it's similar to MongoDB normal shell which we created the user using insert one method. That's what we have done here. We have simply inserted a user. You can also update it here very easily, but obviously you won't be doing this, right? You won't be updating documents manually like this. You won't be doing this. You would be connecting it to your backend, right? But we will do that in the backend part also, but right now that's how you can create an object here directly. But we have different approaches. Okay, but first let me tell you an alternative to this. You can actually use MongoDB Compass, which is actually a software, and it's similar to this Atlas, but it's running in your local computer. It would run in your local computer and would be connected to your database. Either it's your local database or this cloud database. So first of all, if I click on database, I would simply click on connect, and here you can see that right now it's asking for IP address. So I would just say add current IP address. Why is this important? Because when you are trying to access this MongoDB database from somewhere, you need to give access to that specific IP address. That means if I'm running this from South Africa, if I want to run this specific database from South Africa in a specific computer, there might be a hacker also. Okay, so for the security, you have to add an IP address which is allowed to access this database. So I would just add IP address, and then I would just click here, and you can see it's like this. Now you can just go for any. So you can see, first of all, I would just go for Compass. I don't have MongoDB Compass suppose installed. So what you can do is you can simply click on download Compass. Okay, you can simply click on download Compass. But the problem is by default Mac OS would be here. So instead of this, you can go for Windows 64, because I am using Windows operating system. That's why we need Windows one. So I would simply click on download, and it would be actually downloaded. Okay, it would be actually downloaded. So for Windows it's actually downloading. Okay, so MongoDB Compass, although I've already downloaded it, installed it, but I would still install it again. So suppose your setup is downloaded, this is the setup. Okay, this is how the setup would actually look like now. So now guys, if I click on next, and mine is already there, but still I would just say repair for now, and repair all, or your installation would be really normal. It's not like that, just next, 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 and it would be done. And now you can actually see MongoDB Compass is actually installed.